Neil Wagner, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Thanks for having me.
We're very excited to have you in the studio this morning. We've spoken to a number of your friends and family in prep for this. The common feedback was that you're not short of a word and they're predicting it will be our longest recording of all time. Is that fair?
Yeah, I do have a problem with talking too much. I love a yarn. Sometimes I have to put a guard in front of my mouth or sort of think twice before I speak, I guess, in a way. But the guys in the change room know sometimes it could be a thing where they just got to say "shut up, Wags" or something like that. I love a yarn. But yeah, not shy of a word.
It's good though, because you've got a game later on today, so there is like a hard deadline we've got to hit, or else you'll be the 12th for the day.
Yeah. But you've been doing it sort of on the side, a bit of a side hustle, doing some radio, what do you call it, broadcasting for SENS, was it Sports Nation now?
That's it, Sports Nation.
How's that been going?
It was good. It was a great experience. It was great, I guess, learning sort of curve, I guess, in that. It's something I really enjoyed. I love sport, love talking about sport, so I thought, hey, give it a go. Sam Ackerman got in touch with me and said, hey, I think, broadcasting or radio media could be something you could be quite good at, so give it a bit of a feel. And I was like, oh, geez, okay. Want to jump to it. I've done a couple of T20s for SENS a couple of years ago, doing some commentating in that, and I sort of really enjoyed it. Got in touch with Sam. I sort of thought, okay, let's wing it. And then, when I got there, it was a hell of a lot harder than what I thought. There's a little bit more to it than just talking. And gosh, yeah, it sort of definitely tested the old sport knowledge, because cricket, I guess rugby union, not rugby league, rugby union, Formula One, I'll be thereabouts. But as soon as it came to tennis, especially tennis names, holy crap. And then rugby league, I was like, wow, I really got to do some research here. Yeah. And quickly, there's some other sports and things like that in them too. And then started realising when you go down that road, it's sport becomes a bit of a job, more so than what cricket is. All the other sports, you've got to sort of have your knowledge and your research sort of done and actually watch it as a job. So it's, a bit of fun with it too, but quite daunting and tiring having to do all the research.
Did you hit the 3 minute? Is it 3 minute voice breaks that you've got to hit before you go to commercials and all that sort of stuff? Like, did they give you any training on that, or did they just chuck you into the wild?
So some of the stuff you obviously seen from being around it as well and things. But there's a couple of times where Sam had to go the old, hey, show the old break. Hey, you need to wrap this up, or come on, move on and get to your story quite quickly. And so there was a challenge for me, I guess, to try and get out what I want to say in a quick space.
Did you listen to a lot of like sports radio, like when you're at the peak of your powers and there's so many people talking about you all the time? Did you listen to like talkback radio or anything like that?
Never listened to radio sport or anything like that. Even as a kid, my old man was sort of one who would listen to sports radio back in South Africa. I think it was called 702 or something like that. They sort of this AM channel that broadcasted sport or covered sport. He listened to it. I didn't want to listen to it at all. It was sort of just, I think maybe a bit of ADHD. I mean, just sort of would listen to something and click out quite quickly when there's no interest and sort of move on. But yeah, not a lot of it. I sort of felt, listened to commentary on TV and some he found really good and some he found sometimes painful to listen to. So I sort of feel like always, I love to do that a little bit different or say it, different. But until you get there, you start realising you've got a lot more respect for the people who do it. It's not as easy as what it looks like. It's a little bit like that couch potato sitting at home watching from the outside. It's always a hell of a lot easier when the pressure and stress not on you. But then when you get under the pump or in an environment to be able to do it, there's a lot more to it behind the scenes that no one knows about.
You spend a lot of time travelling at the moment, sort of driving, to and from Papamoa to wherever you're playing. Are you listening to podcast? Like, are you listening to music or radio now? Like, what are you doing now?
He doesn't listen to us. He doesn't listen to us. Don't go fishing.
I honestly don't, but after this, I probably would.
There it is.
I reckon there's a while ago, I started actually getting tired of listening to the same music over and over again and the same radio station. And I actually sent Bolty and them a text on Snapchat. I said something, guys, you got a podcast you can recommend? And I can't even remember what it was. I need to go back on the text, but he recommended something. I never end up listening to it. And it was quite funny because...
Some beers one.
The worst thing is my Sonos got taken over by the white noise for our kids at home. So sort of between 12:30 and 2:30, 3 o'clock, my missus is like, don't go on Spotify, please, because it connects with the Sonos speakers at home, which we used for their white noise. And so as soon as you go on there, it cuts their white noise out.
You get the message from the missus.
So I'm like, oh,
Get
gosh,
off.
I can't go on the radio now. I can't listen to something. And that was one of those particular moments I couldn't really do it. But saying that, I never read books, and I ended up deciding to write a book with someone, and couldn't believe I did that because I'm the last person who can sit still 5 minutes and read a book. So it's the same as the podcast thing. But I think it's something I definitely, with the amount of time I'm spending on the road now driving, definitely something I think I'm going to get into.
Yeah, we've both read the book. Brilliant. We're looking forward to getting into it, and sort of there's so much goodness in there. But just before that, we sort of reached out to a bunch of sources and people in preparation for this. And I want to start with BJ Watling. And he says, we asked him to describe you. And he said he is probably the complete opposite to me in terms of organising his gear in the shed. My shit went everywhere, and his area was absolutely immaculate. Shirts folded and ironed probably. I swear he cleaned all of his gear every day. Is that fair? Is that you?
Yeah, it is. Painful trait for me. I don't know. It sometimes annoys Lana at home as well. Don't know what it is about me. I don't know where it came from. My mum was quite organised, and she was always real clean and tidy, and it used to annoy the crap out of me. She would come in my room and sort of make things real neat and tidy, and as a kid growing up, I sort of kind of hated it, but it was nice knowing if I rock up something, I knew exactly where it was, what it looks like. I never had to look for something. I never had to, search for anything or, anything. Everything just felt in routine. It was quite easy to get to something and knowing where it was. And so this routine just sort of started happening, and got into cricket. And I wouldn't say it was, I don't believe in superstitions. And I wouldn't say it was a superstition, but it was something of a routine that made you feel good. You knew everything was in place. In when it wasn't like that, in the start of my career, it sort of got me a little bit rabbled, like a lot of guys tried to mess around with my kit when I was younger, and gosh, it wound me up because I sort of felt like I chucked my routine out, and they sort of knew it, so they loved taking the piss out of me and doing that, especially Salvi at the start. Oh gosh, he would just move my shit everywhere and just chuck in the corner, or I'll get there and my whole kit will be, bats will be in another corner and gloves will be sort of strapped together with pairs that not matching and stuff like that. And I was just like, geez, Tim.
I'm the Southie in this relationship.
Yeah, I'm Wags. Yeah, very much the same. I wondered on tours, did you do stuff like turn people, like room raiders? Like if someone left their room key in a lobby, would you ever go in and then just like turn everything upside down or move all the furniture into the hallway or anything like that?
Funny, because it happened on a tour where it was Champions League playing for Otago, and our coach back at the time, Vaughan Johnson, was sort of a bit of the guy who loved, stirring things up.
If the coach is the one who's leading the banter, you're in trouble.
He was, and a few bits and pieces happened, and he sort of mucked around a few things, and one of the guys did something with my kit, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get you. And so we got a hold of his room key down at reception, went and took all the salt and sugar in the room, literally chucked it in his whole bed. Did the old tomato sauce in the door handle, and as soon as he went to touch the door handle, his hand was full of tomato sauce, and he just went like this onto his shirt, and his white shirt, and he just looked at it.
Brilliant.
He was pretty stoked of us. But I soon learned that, hey, when you do something to someone, it's going to come back in twofold. And Timmy was one of those guys that if you took it a step further, he was just going to go further. And further again, he was there's never going to be an end to it. So you sort of just knew, okay, take this one on the chin and sort of walk away. But talking about BJ Watling is quite funny. His kit was just, I've got a photo still of it. I showed him the other day on the plane because he's obviously my coach at the moment. I said, mate, do you recognise this spot? And it was just bats, gloves everywhere.
Yeah,
being 12th man for him was...
Very Stephen Holloway.
Mate, being 12th man for him was the worst. When he asked for a pair of gloves, it was just nothing was matching. None of the gloves were the same or the same colours. They were just like lying there. So you're trying to... None of them were numbered like 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever. So you're just trying to find pairs that look the same and are dry, actually, in half sort of decent nick. And he was a grubby character. But
I love your descriptions of BJ. We've had BJ on the podcast, and I sort of went to school with him, and I kind of know BJ. But from the outside, you see him as this kind of like quiet guy, quite sort of clean cut. And then he's talking about sort of smoking ciggies and sort of
that was a surprise,
getting on the whiskies.
He's the most nervous character in the change room. He was the worst guy to sit next to you if you after him to bat, because he'll sit there, rub his hands together. And back in the day when you can still smoke a cigarette, he was mate, going through a packet of durries before you go on the pad. It's just like the steam train going past. And that soon changed to a vape, and he's just like suddenly sucking this thing before he goes out to bat. And then it's literally, when that wicket fell, it's like the switch just clicked into gear, and it's just like, all of a sudden this dude has just changed. Like, he's just this calm, yeah, I'm ready for this battle, I'm going out there. I've got this, lads. You know, sort of without saying it, you can just see there's just this switch that just went on, and here he goes, and he's going to get stuck in. You know?
But that's you too. Like,
yeah,
it sounds like you're describing yourself too, right? Like, you're this nice, like, pleasant guy, and then white line fever.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I faked it a little bit better. Like, I wouldn't show it as much. I think BJ was just like, you can just see this guy's just like sweaty hands, like rubbing together, gets all nervous, and he sort of laughs, like, ooh, like, shit, you know, like, and you could just see he's like pretty nervous. But then, like I say, when the wicket fell, it's just like, bang, okay, well, there's BJ going. It's a completely different character, and he goes out there, and you just know that this guy will fight and fight and fight for you. And it's probably the first guy, I guess, in the team list, and your name you put down to go fight for your life will be him. You know,
I think you'd be number one and BJ number two, I reckon.
I've got some things to read, so strap in, and I'm going to get you to respond to it. There's this quite incredible YouTube video which was made a few years ago by the cricket journalist and analyst Jared Kimber, which describes you as cricket's ultra modernist. I'm going to read what he wrote. He said, cricket's had a lot of weird creations in its time, but Neil has got to be the craziest. And it's an almost entirely modern thing. For Wagner to exist, we needed this infestation of left-arm pace. The pitches had to be hard enough for all-day bouncers. Fitness levels had to reach a point where he can do push-ups at the end of his mark and not even feel tired. And batsmen needed this level of protection to face bouncers all day without complaining about it. Neil Wagner is not like the others, none of them. He is Test cricket's ultra-modernist snowflake killer. We have never had anyone like this before be this successful. He took over cricket one slow bouncer at a time. And he goes on to talk about how you were averaging 30s after 12 tests and had no obvious skill that would change that, but you did, and went on to become one of the greatest first change bowlers of all time. In 64 tests, you'd taken 260 wickets at an average of 27.57 with a strike rate of 52.7. Only Sir Richard Hadlee had a better strike rate in tests among New Zealanders who had taken more than 100 wickets. When you hear that description of you, this crazy wild ride you've been on, which we're going to get into soon, like, are you at a place now where you reflect on that and think, yeah, shit, what I've done is wild?
Not yet. Maybe one day, but yeah, I sort of feel like the whole journey of getting there and that is a pretty special one. It was quite a life-changing and a character building one, I guess, in a way. I realised, and it took a long time, I guess, in my career where as a kid growing up, you want to be the best. You sort of wet behind the ears and kind of, thought I believe that I kind of was one of the best. I could be one of the best and want to be the best bowler in the world. And you sort of just have this arrogance, I guess, when you sort of don't really know of any better in a big way. And I sort of feel like guys in the team is your competition because that's the way you got brought up, I guess, in a way. And you push each other to try and, I guess, to get to some sort of greatness. But then it got to a point when I started realising that, hey, there's other guys that's actually better than you. They do the skill that you do better than what you do. What's the point in trying to, still try and do that? How can I try and be effective and actually make them effective and better? And what does the team need from me? And like I said, it's well documented that Brendon McCullum was a massive driver in that behind the scenes of, putting the team first, what the team needs out of you. And he had this knack of just getting people to follow him and doing everything, to the best of your ability and even better, just from what he expected of you. But at the start, I probably didn't see it as good as what the other guys saw it. I think I was quite nervous, scared of failure, fear of failure, not executing. It used to grind me because starting my career as a swing bowler and leaned on obviously swinging the ball quite a bit. And played first-class cricket as opening bowler, so the ball swings. Tim and Trent is probably two of the best swing bowlers in the world. So they bowled majority of the overs up front. And obviously, a kookaburra ball doesn't swing for that long. So there's a period of time it doesn't swing. and it's normally after they've sort of bowled of it, the ball gets chucked to you. And my mistake that I tried to make was I tried to bend it like they did. I tried to absolutely hoop it, and I was like, trying to fight, I guess, this sort of thing. And the fear of failure came in massively when, your ball wasn't really swinging, wasn't doing what you expected it to do, and what normally from coming from first class cricket. And Brendon has got this massive, aggressive field with 4 slips and a gully, and there's probably no, protection and cover and something like that. And you bowl this half volley floating up there, and everyone just goes, don't try and swing it, just keep whacking the wicket. And I'm like, I'm not trying to swing it, I'm just shit scared of failing, I just actually getting worried about it, getting hit through covers there, and sort of didn't feel like, I'm as good as what Baz is sort of expecting from me, but I'm going to try, and you sort of miss, and this little voice that's on your shoulder and my head was just sort of kept talking about what's the sort of negative thing of, you're not as good as these guys, and, there's a lot expected from you, and gosh, you just got to nail this. Instead of actually looking the way Tim and Trent did, and they were like, geez, Brendon backs me. Yeah, I feel bloody good. Like, I've got 4 slips and gully, no cover, and Brendon's just like, come nick this guy off, and goes, oh yeah. And they just fed off that confidence of Baz. And it took me a while to actually realise that, hey, this guy's backing you. He's got your back 100%. He believes in you to be able to deliver this sort of job. And it took a while to stand at the top of my mark and sort of get rid of this little devil on your shoulder and just go, okay, hey, I don't care if it's going to swing or not. I'm just going to whack this wicket as hard as I can. And then sort of got into a bit of a groove and sort of found your role and knew, okay, what it sort of looks like, what your, I guess, sort of, spot looks like in the team, what your job looks like, I guess, around it. And then it wasn't until later on in my career where, I used to bowl a lot of bounces before that and loved bowling, I guess, a short ball. I sort of always felt like it was a bit of a weapon for me in a way. And it was to a point where a bit of frustration kicked in because I kept missing getting sort of hit, and I just thought, this sort of anger and that sort of creeps in. I just went, I'm just going to bounce the crap out of this guy and just go at it. And sort of started doing it and just bowled a couple of short balls and sort of started looking effective. And I remember Bash coming to me afterwards and he just said, hey, I think you found your niche. I think this is you, why try and swing it if you can do this? And he said, how long do you think you can do this for? And I said, well, how long do you want me to do it for? He said, well, keep going. And I said, okay, happy. And before I knew it, I started bowling 10 over spells and doing this, and sort of spells got longer and longer, and we sort of got to a bit of a, I guess a way where we started feeling, okay, this is effective and that sort of helps. And Tim and Trent, do what they do from the other end. It sort of, we sort of starting to complement each other quite well. And that's where you started, I guess getting a little bit more comfortable in your own, sort of skill and your role and your own skin, and sort of knowing, okay, this is my role, this is my job, and I feel comfortable doing this. And sort of ticked away with doing that, and the more confidence you got, the more self-belief you got of it, the less the sort of little devil on your shoulder was always there, but the less you started hearing that voice, and the easier you could just say, hey, shush, I've got this, I'm going to do this. And even when you sort of failed or it didn't go as well, you knew what's required and what you needed to do. But it got to a point where you sort of realised that you were bowling for each and every guy on that team, and the team was bigger than what you are. And once I started doing that, it was one of the best things I think I did in my whole career, because it started making me relax more and feel like, hey, you're not the best in the world. You're probably never going to be the best in the world, but I can try and own this little spot that I've got and be the best I can be at that. And I remember my brother said to me, because there was a period where I missed a lot of games where it was horses for courses sort of thing, and Baz would come to you and say, hey, we think this wicket's going to seam a little bit more, and it's, I would pick the wicket as a little bit flatter, and it sort of grinded me a little bit, and I was like, geez, I need to keep working my other skills, and I did. I sort of worked on still swinging the ball, worked on a 3/4 going across, and other, I guess, skills around it. But my brother said, hey, if you're going to be 12th man, be the best 12th man, run the drinks the best. If you're going to play, be the best at the role you're going to do, and own that and enjoy it. But whatever it is, enjoy this time you've got, because it's short-lived. And Baz in the change room would always harp on about your career is short-lived. This is what we do. It's the best time of your life, and it only lasts a short while. And you sort of see that people come in the change room and leave and, move on and stuff like that, and you sort of realise, Jesus, isn't forever. So let's make the most of this and enjoy it. And that's when I started realising, okay, I'm going to try and be the best I can in this environment for the team and what the team needs from me. And I started enjoying my cricket more than I ever did before that. It became a thing where all that stats and the stuff you read out became a byproduct of everything you did. And all of a sudden, everything I wanted to achieve as a kid growing up, when you try to achieve it, when you try and make that the focus, it never happened. It felt further and further away from you, and you put so much pressure on yourself and trying to achieve it and trying to do that. And when you started doing these other things, it was just everything else started ticking and unfolding. And I remember bowler's spell, I took no wickets. I walked off and I sort of felt like, geez, it's just didn't take a wicket. I went for 2.5 runs and over, sort of happy with that. But bowled 10 overs to about 20 runs, but couldn't get a pole or whatever it was. And Baz walked in, changed him. Timmy's taken 4 for and Trent's taken 5 for, and sort of clean through them. And I sort of felt, geez, it would just be nice to have contributed a wicket. And Baz started the conversation. He goes, guys, thought we bowled really well. He goes, Wags, that spell you bowled, mate, you didn't take a wicket, but you went absolutely nowhere, bowled pressure, and it led to Timmy and Trent to do what they did and took the wickets. And I just went, holy shit. Like, I've never heard a captain ever speak like that.
The beauty of long form podcasting is getting to hear what's going on behind the scenes, and this is full of your book. Like, it takes you into your head, and from the outside you see Neil Wagner and you think he's full of confidence and he's got, he's firing in and he believes in himself so much, but to hear the other side is really insightful and great. I want to chart the story back to the beginning and sort of build us through. So back in South Africa, in the book you paint the picture of growing up as the younger sibling to older brothers as being quite foundational in building some of that toughness, them bowling bounces to you and touch rugby that turns into rugby. Like, do you see that as quite foundational in that toughness that we've seen?
Yeah, massive. I grew up next to a sport ground, not sort of watching them play, and that's where I sort of fell in love with sport and, watching them play rugby and seeing the big hits when you're sort of younger. We were playing barefoot rugby and sort of no one's really hitting you that hard, and all of a sudden, you're right next to the action and they've got their boots on and pretty big boys, going quite hard and tackling each other quite hard, and my brother's got like a cut and blood coming out of his eye and stuff, and I sort of looked at him and went, geez, okay, he's pretty hard, he's pretty rough. And then you sort of come to the weekend and we play a bit of backyard cricket or something and you realise, okay, he's a bit bigger and stronger and harder than you are, and it sort of quite helped, I guess, in that way, that I knew it was sort of, good role models, I guess, in a way to have to be able to aspire to, but also knew, okay, that's what it's going to take, growing up and things like that. But sort of missed out, I guess, a lot in my younger years of, the time away after the game and the change, and where you learn quite a lot, I guess, and see a lot of things and spark a lot of conversations and build a lot of friendships, I guess, in a way. I didn't really have that time. I didn't have a license, didn't have a car, sort of had to, sort of be the guy who everyone has a beer after the game, sort of think, oh gosh, my dad's here after work, ready to pick me up, I've got to go jump in the car with him and go home. And you sort of felt quite embarrassed by it a little bit. Everyone sort of jumps in their cars and, can go into the pub or whatever, and restaurant, they sort of hang out, whatever, and you were sort of limited to that. And like I said, by no wrongdoing with my parents, it was just the way it was, and you didn't know if any better. So there was a couple of games, especially first class cricket, where you sort of felt like the guys go, oh, you want to have a beer and, come chew the fat and sort of have a couple of yarns. And again, you had to jump in the car with your parents and go home. It sort of felt like you missed quite a lot of that sort of interaction. Connecting and friendships brewing, and that was quite tough, I guess. And when I moved to the UK, and I sort of out of your parents' house and even moved to New Zealand, I sort of felt like all of a sudden I had that freedom. I still haven't had a license, but you could jump in a cab or a taxi, which you couldn't really do in South Africa, and it's okay. Jump in a taxi and go home, and it's easy. You can walk. Everything was walking distance, so it's quite good. So all of a sudden you had this time afterwards where you can actually build friendships and actually learn a lot. Because I feel like in the change room afterwards, that's where you learn the most. That's, I guess, the moments and in your career you look back the fondest on, the memories that you've create there, and the friendships you obviously, I guess, grow. And that's something I feel like in my youngest stage of my life in South Africa I didn't really have, which was a bit of a shame, I guess, in a big way.
Are you painting a picture of a lonely teenager, or is that unfair? Was it just circumstantial rather than anything else?
It was circumstantial, but I would say I didn't really have. I had a lot of friends, real good friends, who I still really good friends with, but I wouldn't have the quality time with them that I would have liked or could have experienced. And like I say again, it was by no wrongdoing of my parents. It was just circumstances of us, the way we grew up and the way it was. And at times you were shy because some of the guys had cash to go behind the bar and buy a round, and here we are, and you go, yeah, I'm probably got enough just to cover one round. What do I do after that? And I sort of didn't want to be that guy sitting there and sort of sponging, so I just avoided it and went on. But then when I went to England, to Ormskirk, all of a sudden got paid by pounds compared to the rand. I was like, mate, I felt like a millionaire. I was like, geez, this is brilliant. Go out and I remember it was like a snake bite was £1 back then. I was just like, I'm living the dream, mate. This is awesome. Like, I can actually buy a round. Yeah, it's okay, and sit in the change room with a bunch of mates and have a couple of beers and some amazing friendships, that you made through that. And I sort of felt like this is the sort of stuff I missed out on in South Africa, and I couldn't really, utilise as much. And I remember. My parents were amazing. I did 12-man duties for South Africa, one Test match, running the drinks, and sat there afterwards. And you had Herschel Gibbs and all these sort of big names in the change room, and they sort of said to me, "Hey, stay on after." And I just quickly hopped on the phone, text my parents, and the game finished about 5 o'clock, and they waited in the car park till about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Just sat there in the car park waiting for us, and few beers deep, I'm sort of stumbling into my parents' car afterwards, and I remember thanking them for just that time to be able to sit there with legends of the game, drink a couple of beers, learn from them, yarn to them, and amazing moments. So there's sort of, the one-off moments you had like that, but you couldn't really always enjoy that with your own team as much as what you could have. And then when I moved to New Zealand, it was like, come to a Otago environment, and gosh, come from the Titans in South Africa, where it was real professional, very strict. They did drink a lot and have a few beers after a game, but, day before at training, the guys wouldn't really drink as much. It was very professional. Come to Dunedin, student town.
How soon after your arrival did you do your first funnel?
It wasn't long, mate.
It wouldn't have been, like this question in jest, but you're straight in. Hey, it's a new guy, get him under.
When Guardies are still open, mate, and you're right in there in a student bar, it was... we had a couple of beers before training, mate. The next day we turned up there pretty dusty, and I was just like, woof, okay. But you're pretty young and you've got the energy to be able to get through it. Can I just
pause you there before you arrive in New Zealand? And you spoke about the interaction in the change room with a South African cricket team, but you also in your formative years come across the Crusaders, I think, and Andrew Mertens spent a bit of time with you, and that. You talk about these moments in your growing up. I feel like that moment had quite a big impact on you.
Yeah, massive. I remember with mates of ours, we went to go watch the Bulls versus Crusaders at Loftus. And so
That's not the game where he's giving it the fingers, is it?
No, I don't think it was. No,
I wasn't sure.
We played with Uffies, which is a school that's right next to Loftus. We played quite a lot of our games on the ground. It's the background sort of around Loftus is about 3 or 4 rugby grounds in the back end of it. So a lot of our games and trainings will be on these grounds. And so, we got some interaction with them and sort of doing some goal kicking and stuff, and they were around there and ended up going to watch the game. And afterwards we're standing there trying to wait for signatures, obviously, and photos and stuff, and the Bulls team comes out, and I can't even remember what happened, the score of the game and how to follow. I'm pretty sure the Crusaders won on memory. I can't remember, but anyway, afterwards, Bulls guys go around and sort of ask for photos, whatever, and they just sort of go past, and guys are getting in their own cars and driving off, and crash cars, and there they go. And comes the Crusaders guys, and they come out, and they just stopped and took photos and signatures and stayed there for ages, just, talking to kids and stuff. And I just looked at them and went, that's so cool. Like, that's awesome, like, that's what I want to be one day. I want to do that. And I remember it was just a massive impact, just how friendly they were, And I had the same sort of thing a little bit, and it's quite hard. Like, when you become a professional sportsman as well, you start realising you have your moments where, you have a bad game and stuff, and kids are asking for autographs. You sort of got to park it up. But there's the odd time where you're just in a bit of a cloud or fog and you don't really see the kid or something calling out for autograph, you sort of walk past, and the impact that has in that little kid is massive, and it could have been one of those moments, like I say, when I was younger, but we've now as well, like with the T20s, made a bit of a thing in the change room because it's such a fast-moving game, trying to get someone's attention when you are on the boundary, signing autographs, and you want to quickly change the field and you can't get the guy's attention. It leads to a bit of a disruption in play, or sort of giving away a plan that you're going to do, quite obvious. And so we made a thing where we said, hey, no signatures during the game, let's do it afterwards. And so you sort of feel like quite bad at the moment. A lot of kids in Seddon Park at the moment going, hey, can we get your autograph, and you sort of got to turn around and go, hey guys, can't do it now, can we do it after the game? But you try and do it in a nice manner so the kids can sort of obviously know, hey, we'll definitely sign you, can you just come around after the game? We can't do it now. You sort of explained to him quite briefly, we're just trying to focus on the game. But I remember there was this guy who played for South Africa, Mike Grindle, and he played for the Titans, and he was quite an aggressive batsman. I used to love watching him and try to copy everything he did. But afterwards, he got out, wanted to get his autograph, and he just sort of just didn't even look at me, just went past, never came out. And I mean, yeah, you never know. He might have been a great bloke, he might not have been, but me as a kid growing up, I sort of looked at him when all of a sudden from you being my idol and looking up to you, I just thought, what an idiot. I don't want to look at you anymore.
Did you have the opposite with, is it the Australian cricketer with Brett Lee and Glenn McGrath when you were a teenager?
Yeah.
The actual opposite, where they've given you time to, I think you're a net bowler or something at the World Cup.
So one of our coaches, Colin Deadmer, who's passed away, he was their liaison officer and part of their support staff during the World Cup, and he organised a couple of trainings where we bowled to the Australians, and then also trainings where they came and watched us. So there was this one training, Australia's training, and we came out bowling to them, and I'm bowling to Matthew Hayden and these guys out in the nets, and it was just one of those pinch me moments. Just cool things.
Are you a teenager? 17?
17 years old, and bowling to Matthew Hayden, I'm sort of pumping my chest out, thinking I'll beat the bat. Next one, he's just walked past you, whacking the ball past your ears, and sort of like, yeah, that's what it's like to be at this sort of level. And I always grew up like Australia, sort of, the arrogant bunch, and everybody wants to beat Australia and don't like Australia and sort of have no time for Australia. But yeah, they were Brett Lee, Glenn McGrath, Jason Gillespie was there, Andy Pickle. They spend all this time helping you out, talking about your action, talking about things you do well, really interacting, signing autographs, signing photos, and went literally out of their way. And I remember afterwards I was talking to Brett Lee and Glenn McGrath and, yarning about, sort of action and sore back and things like this. And Brett Lee was talking about, the pain he's going through, and this is only the start. You're going to experience a lot of pain throughout your career and your life and these sort of things. And I just went, okay, cool. This is awesome to hear from one of them. And they sort of talked about, some things like holding the ball in the seam where they hold it, what they do. And I was just like, this is awesome, And you think, okay, that stops there. And gone to pick up my kit bag, and yes, Brett Lee picked it up. Glenn McGrath goes, oh, where's your car? Where's your parents? And they started strutting over, and the bus is on the other side of the field. And they started walking over to where my parents were. And my parents get out of the car, and they sort of greet them. They start yarning, and here's the bus waiting for these two for ages. I want to say 15, 20 minutes. And we had this old Volkswagen called Chico, which is like smaller than a Golf or Polo. It's like this little car. And Glenn McGrath is like this towering figure just leaning with his arm on the bonnet, and my dad's way shorter and I'm way shorter, and they just yarning to my parents and yarning to me, and popped my kit back in the boot. And I sort of looked at this and went, what a moment. And as a kid growing up, I never forget that time. Like, it was just
it sticks with you, right? Like even 20 years later and you're still talking about it. Like that stuff is.
But the most impressive thing for me was Glenn McGrath ended up writing about me in his book, and I didn't know about it until many years later. And I go, how does this guy remember that and actually took the time about, to write about it in his book? And it was just like one of those pinch me sort of moments, and hit him up about it in Sydney when I was there for the Test match then. But it was just a life-changing moment in my career, I guess, massive.
To summarise your move from South Africa to New Zealand, you were a good cricketer. You wanted to be a professional. There was like the pathway to Test cricket in South Africa. It was so stacked with so many quality players that you couldn't really see it. And then this opportunity presents to move out to New Zealand. And I want to read something. Dylan Cleaver, who's in my opinion the best cricket writer we've got, wrote a book about modern New Zealand cricket greats. And his summary of the situation is, Hesson was coaching Otago. They needed a bowler. And Cleaver writes, Hesson wasn't interested in just any old bowler. He specifically wanted Wagner. He'd been scouring tapes but knew that with Otago Cricket's limited budget, there would be a very specific type of player he needed. One who had the sort of intrinsic motivation and a desire to prove himself to the world. One that came without a big price tag. He kept coming back to a tape from South Africa, where a young left armour kept steaming in over after wicketless over. Nothing was in his favour, not the conditions or the physical attributes one normally associates with quicks. He wasn't especially tall, and he wasn't even lightning quick, though he carried himself like he was. He was relentless, though, and that sort of thing brings its own rewards. I think that sounds like a very good summary to me. But what was your relationship with Hess when he's contacted you, and then like how did he get you over the line to come to New Zealand?
Yeah, again, we spoke about it earlier, that self-belief sort of factor and trying to prove yourself a little bit. That was sort of one of the things that sort of motivated me and drove me to try and prove people wrong, I guess. It was this sort of stigma, I guess, in South Africa. If you were tall, you're going to make a great fast bowler. If you bowled 140 plus, you're going to make a great fast bowler. And sort of got to the point where I was none of that. I was short and I bowled 130. So I was like trying to bowl faster and faster. And there's a period where I got to a point where I was clocking 140, but you lose control and lose shape. And, I didn't do myself any favours by trying to do that. But what I felt was I had this belief in myself that I can play at this level. I can do it. And I want to do it because this is something I just love. I love this game. I love this sport. And I just want to play against the best and be at the highest level. And we played this game in Hull, which is quite a flat wicket, playing for the Titans, and finally got a chance. So the team had Dale Steyn, Morne Morkel, Albie Morkel, Andre Nell, Alfonso Thomas. The list just kept going on and on. It was just guys who played for South Africa, and so many bowlers and quality bowlers and hard to break into, and finally get this chance. And I sort of felt like this is the one you have to really show what you've got. And again, like you said, conditions are not in your favour, and I sort of just kept stepping in, and I thought anyone's going to watch that footage is just going to go, no, don't sign this guy up because, weren't getting a wicket, weren't getting anything, just sort of going for runs, but I just kept trying and trying and trying, and pretty lucky and fortunate that Hess saw something in that and saw, I guess, which I try to, I guess, get out as a young guy trying to, pave my way, show myself as a guy who, will give everything and whatever it is to play at the highest level, and whatever is expected from me, I'll sort of do it, And sort of got to a point where not long after that game, went over to the UK thinking after I played South Africa sort of emerging players or A series, gone over to Bangladesh, played in that, and was sort of promised a contract in South Africa, and that sort of fell through quite badly, and then got to the point where they said, hey, we can't sign you, we can give you a rookie contract, which was peanuts sort of money, but you can do some coaching and whatnot. And I sort of felt really deflated, I guess, in a way. And
did you have a plan B?
No plan B. Like I said, moved over to the UK thinking county cricket is the option. That's what a lot of South Africans were doing at that time, sign a Colpack deal and try and play for England. But I had no, there was just nothing that sort of pushed me to play for England. It was more just I can become a first-class cricketer and, earn some crusts that can, sort of look after myself, I guess, in a way. And, sort of went that route, had a couple of trials, it all went well, and sort of sat down with one of the guys and he sort of said, hey, we can give you a 2-year deal. And the money was extremely good. It was, something from coming, obviously, the background, my parents were struggling and, I wasn't really earning anything looking at that. I was just, felt like I won the lotto. I was just like, yeah, cool, I definitely want this. And then Mike Hesson got in touch after seeing my footage and sort of said to me, hey, we know you got 2 offers of county teams at the moment, just give us 24 hours or a day or so just to, see what we can put together for you, but we're really keen to get you over. And I sort of left it there. I remember ringing up my parents from the UK, quite exciting, going, hey, it felt like I was going absolutely nowhere in my career, and sort of stalling a little bit and felt like the wall's against you, all of a sudden I've got 3 potential offers on the table here and things are moving. But the hard thing is it's going to take me away from my family. So that's sort of what it is. And my dad left his parents behind, to go after my mum to Pretoria from Cape Town. So he was just really encouraging and said, you got to do what you got to do. You got to, if this is your dream, you want to do it, chase it. You've got our full backing and support. And I knew there was nothing really else, lining up on the table for me. So, you can't really be too picky. And then Hess rang me up and said to me, hey, we can offer you, 3 years, but it's a 6-month contract. We'll look after you for 3 years, but it's going to be performance-based. So whatever you do is going to come down to you. You can earn more money if you keep performing. If you don't, then it's all up to you. And I was like, geez, okay. But he said, hey, after 3 years or so, you can qualify to play for New Zealand. And I was just like, it just went up, and I just went, that would be pretty cool. And I was like, I want to play international cricket, and this could be the way in. And so I said to Hess, mate, I'm desperate. I loved that opportunity. I want to play for New Zealand. It's gone. And the thing that was sort of the tick with it was a couple of weeks before that, I ended up bowling to the New Zealand team and the England team in England before a test match at Old Trafford. And I just remember looking at them again, laid back. It was just like it was Crusaders days again, seeing them at Loftus, just guys who made the time of actually talking to you and can have a conversation. It was pretty, cool in that, where the England guys didn't really, sort of look your way, sort of saw you as a net bowler, and that was it. And that just sort of sparked the whole thing. And as a kid, growing up, in South Africa, you can talk to any person in South Africa now. The All Blacks South Africa rivalry is one of the best in the world, and you just always, couldn't wait to sit in front of the TV watching the haka and watching the All Blacks. So again, that was just something that just drew me, coming from a school that was rich of values and tradition and stuff like that. It sort of felt like that's screaming New Zealand,
What a move. Like, I'm going to move us through this chapter only because, like, once you came to New Zealand, you've done so much. But I'm gonna sort of summarise. So your domestic performances were so good, you went on to make your Test debut for the Black Caps at the age of 26. And you played for another 12 years. But I want to link it to the book. So in the opening of the book, which is all out, and this is the sign of a good cricket autobiography. It's something that you don't expect, and I don't think would have come out if not for the book. It's confronting because it speaks to the mental pressure around imposter syndrome and belonging, which culminates in you hitting rock bottom at a hotel in Sri Lanka. We spoke before we came on about the importance of these sort of conversations and how maybe previously it was uncomfortable, but now you see the goodness in it. And I'm hoping you can kind of summarize like where you were in your journey at that point and what was going on in your head.
Yeah, so, I mean, coming into Dunedin on the back of, shifting, leaving, it was a big step. I remember hopping on the plane in tears going, geez, this is a big move, you're not going to see your parents, but I've got to commit to this. It's, chasing my dream and wanting to play cricket at the highest level, doing what you can do. And, it's sort of funny, when I left Ormskirk in the UK, one of the guys said to me, have you been to New Zealand? And I said, no, never. And he said, you complained about the cold here. Do you know how cold it is down there? And I said, yeah, no, it'd be pretty cold. I've sort of watched rugby on TV and sort of know what it's like. And got here with my one suitcase of one warm jacket, leaving, South Africa about 33, 34 degrees, and got off on the plane. It was 4 degrees when I arrived in Dunedin, and my gosh, it was freezing. The Targo team was just, sort of growing into that culture, into that team, but they sort of welcomed the way I played. I think the first game I played, Ian Butler had a bit of a thing with Northern Districts, because obviously coming from Northern Districts, he wanted to share his 2 cents worth, and it was like, hey, we're going to go hard at these guys. And I knew the South African way of going hard, so I sort of did it. And all these Otago boys were jumping on the back and going, oh, yeah, okay, cool. This is how this guy plays, and we're going to love it. We're going to jump on the back of it, and sort of went of it. And they appreciated, I guess, the passion I sort of brought to the game and the way I played. But not long after that, I'm in a New Zealand emerging players group in Brisbane, where I've got picked to go there and in the winter. And yeah, you are against a lot of these guys you've sort of abused and played against, and sort of didn't really appreciate the way it's sort of not the Kiwi way, sort of all of a sudden you're there with them, and sort of took a while to grow some friendships and stuff. But I ended up rooming with Kane, and one of the sort of best guys, I guess, to room with. He was quite mellow and quite chilled and sort of, quite easy to talk to, and I sort of really enjoyed the time with him, but sort of, trying to find your way and building some trust and some friendships and stuff, and come back the next year into Otago and loved it, kept going, and I'm loving life. I'm like, this is awesome. This is brilliant. Like, it's just where I want to be, and it's good. And a couple of other relationships when, sort of fish up through the time with, girlfriends and stuff like that, and didn't sort of work out, and things got a little bit tougher, and sort of bought a house and found myself quite alone in this place. It was just me in this sort of 2-bedroom house in Dunedin, and this isn't the time where I qualified to play for South Africa. And I went back and visited my family when I got selected, and everything is happy. I'm just like, I've got selected, I've qualified, my dreams come true. This is bloody awesome. This is everything I could ever imagine, wanted to do, and it's happened in 4 years. I bought a house, something I could never imagine doing when I was a kid growing up. I got picked to play for the Black Caps, and I'm eligible. Everything I've set out to do in this 4 years, I've done, and I've nailed it, I've achieved it. And pretty stoked, pretty happy, and getting my first trip, go to the West Indies, and it was an eye-opener. It was a complete different environment. It was a place where you walked in, and it was a little bit like more in the background where you were sort of in South Africa, where everybody looked after themselves a little bit more, and you are in a change room where people that you played against domestically didn't really appreciate the way you sort of played, and it's sort of well documented. You could ask Timmy, where he didn't really like me at the start. We got to know each other, sort of just you're a teammate, and that's what it is, sort of thing, So sort of found myself pretty lonely in this environment quite quickly, and sort of just went the way I did, and I sort of had some people that were really nice and kind, like Kane and Dean Brownlee and Daniel Flynn, you sort of hang out with and stuff, and played the first 2 tests, didn't really go according to plan, and so the self-doubt and so stuff creeped in again, like, are you good enough to be sort of, do this? And then before you knew it, you go to a tour to India, don't play, find myself pretty lonely there, and all I kept thinking was, geez, I actually rather want to be in Otago and be with them, because the guys there sort of know me and appreciated me a little bit better, and it would be a hell of a lot easier to be sort of playing there, and sort of the international thing was a hell of a lot different to what I thought, and sort of didn't really back myself, I guess, in a way, and sort of thought maybe I'm not good enough to be here, and it's a bit of an eye-opener. And so went back to Otago to go play, and I got pulled up into the A side with a lot of the guys, and we're playing in Lincoln, which is probably the worst place to be at when you go in a downward spiral, being in the dorms of Lincoln. And we were there for like 6 weeks, and this is the longest 6 weeks of my life, sitting in Lincoln playing cricket down there. And so played in that, and things just went pear-shaped with relationships back in South Africa, and, family going through a tough time, other bits and pieces happening. And I get to a point where you start questioning everything all of a sudden, from what you've achieved and done in a short space of time. All of a sudden, it feels like you're not nailing this, it's not worked, you're just in a bad spot now at the moment.
Are you talking to anyone about this at the time, or is this situation existing in your head and just going around?
Just me, and I, again, at that stage, and it was quite hard. When things happen, you sort of go, who do you talk to? Because back in the day, it was hard to talk about these things, because you grew up in an environment in South Africa and New Zealand, everywhere, where people make jokes and take the piss out of things, and your first thing you think is, that's probably the first thing that could happen. People are going to joke around it. If they're going to take it serious, they might not select you. So now all of a sudden I'm not getting selected, and I don't want to look at like, hey, this is probably why you're not selected or something. And then Players Association gets involved and stuff like that, and so maybe you need away from cricket. And I go, geez, it's the worst thing that could potentially happen to me. So I don't want to talk to someone about it, and I don't know who I can talk to about this. But at the moment, I know Otago is sort of a safe place, and around your mates there. So that's sort of where you feel you can be yourself, and they appreciate you for who you are. Where in the Black Caps environment, I sort of felt like you're trying to find your way still, and find kind of who you are, and getting these guys to trust you to learn who you are, to know that, hey, you are a decent bloke, although experienced me playing for Otago, coming quite hard and being quite aggressive.
Well, what you're describing is like your safe place in Otago, right? And this Black Caps environment that you're quite new into is really difficult. There's the captaincy split with Ross and Brendon, and it's just kind of quite a frosty environment. And then you're going away on these tours with the world sort of falling apart around you without support.
Yeah.
Right?
And it was hard to talk to someone because, like I said, at the moment, the whole team was in sort of not cliques or splits, but there's a group of mates that grew up together playing a lot of cricket from age group stuff, and they quite a tight unit. And then there's another group, and then there's the guys who sort of just, go with the flow and go by themselves, and they quite sort of, in and out the team, or they, trying to fight for their spots still and something like that. And I'm sort of there with them and thereabouts. And it was a pretty tough place, and all this sort of stuff was happening in the white noise outside of it, and people will ask you questions and you just go, I know nothing that's going on, mate. Like, it's not like I'm sort of amongst the chats or the talk of it. And it was quite hard. And I kept remembering at that stage that, geez, I'd rather want to be now at Otago playing, and it's quite weird. But, my dream was to play for New Zealand and be with the Black Caps. And here I am, I'd rather want to be in Dunedin running in stemming for Otago, because these guys understand me, they know me, and they appreciate the way I play and the energy I sort of bring to the game, and it was different. And there was a lot of things behind the scenes and away from cricket that was going pretty tough, and with family and things and that behind the scenes back home, and that was hard because you're in a different time zone, and miles away, and you can't really address those sort of problems and those issues. And I think back in the day, you had Skype, and that was it. And sometimes that would just sort of load and load and load. And there wasn't the technology as today. It's just too easy, go on WhatsApp video call or FaceTime and just talk and, do what you do in there quickly as well. So,
did it culminate in Sri Lanka? Like, is this kind of snowballing to that tour when things got to their worst, and how did it result?
So it started in the series at Lincoln for 6 weeks, playing in the A group, A stuff there, and sort of started yarning. And this is where I started texting Lana a bit, and we started, becoming, I guess, a bit more of, I guess, a friendship brewing of us, and talking to each other over the phone quite a bit. And I was in a different relationship, and she was in a long distance relationship. And so we were giving each other a bit of stick, because I was talking from a male's perspective and she was talking from a female's perspective, and I'm coming up with the dude she was going out with, and she's coming up with the person that I'm with, and so our friendship is sort of there trying to support each other and our relationships, at the moment, and this was sort of, going in a good, sort of going in a downward spiral, and I'm sort of going in a bad way, and she is in a point where her relationship looked like breaking up, and I'm sort of trying to come up for the boyfriend's sort of point of view, and I'm like, long distance relationships is tough, and I'm trying to do it from New Zealand, you're just doing it from Cape Town to Pretoria, and I'm like, that's not hard. And so it was quite interesting talking to Lana as a friend, hearing her perspective from a female's perspective, having this long distance relationship that's extremely hard at the moment, going, sort of down. And I ended up getting on a plane, going to Sri Lanka, thinking, relationship broken up, I'm not playing, I'm not getting selected, my family's going through a tough time. What am I doing here? I thought this is the way the road pathed out for me, that I'm going to play for New Zealand. This is going to be a lot easier than what I thought it was going to be. And I had this picture in my mind of, again, blinkers, my eye blinkers on, the way I look at the world and things like that, and I thought it was going to be a lot easier, and just going to walk in and just make things work. But it took a lot longer to build those relationships with mates in the Black Caps after playing domestically against them. And it was through not my own wrongdoing, but through how I got brought up, and the way you play cricket in South Africa was brutal. It was tough. Some of your best teammates would come quite hard at you and sit with you afterwards, have a beer, and you sit and you just abuse the crap out of my family and whatever. And here we are sitting having a beer together, and you just think this is the norm, And here I am running in a game, playing against Tom Latham, and abusing him and sort of taking the piss out of him, saying, "Oh, you're only playing because of your dad," or your dad, you know, talking to Righty or knowing Righty and stuff like that, and sort of thinking this is the norm. And Tom Nathan was thinking, who the hell is this idiot, you know? And not long, you're sitting in the change room with him. And they didn't really appreciate that sort of banter and chat and stuff. And for me, I thought, hey, whatever happens over the boundary rope, what happens in the field stays in the field, and afterwards you can sit and have a beer. And sitting in New Zealand, sort of domestic change rooms, you sit and want to have a beer, guys didn't really appreciate that. But the target guys did. They sort of loved the energy and passion you brought to the game and things like that, you know. And Timmy was first to talk about it and to say, mate, you just abused the shit out of everyone in this change room playing against him, and now you want to sit in the change room, become mates with him. Like, it doesn't work like that. And I just went, okay, cool, yeah. And in one of my first tours in West Indies, and Roscoe's captain, and he got quite angry with me missing, and got clipped through the leg side a couple of times, and he kicked the ground and sort of was quite frustrated. And Timmy, I knew from the start he didn't really click and got along with me at all, and he sort of went past Roscoe and said, mate, it's his first test, help the guy out, rather than kicking the ground, support him. I said, look at him, and geez, he just went on about, hey, he did like me, and, you know, sort of about why the guy I am and how I, you know, sort of my passion I'm bringing to the game. And sort of coming up for me. I sort of thought, that's quite weird, but I sort of thought, okay, that's nice of him. And I thought, you know, Tim was always a guy that he had respect for you, would treat you, you know, as a person should treat another person and how you would want to be treated. But he would well and truly tell you where you stood with him, and he didn't like the way I played domestically. And that's where I sort of realised that, you know, shit, okay, guys didn't really like this, and I sort of trying to find my way and how I do and the things I do, and where the line is and where you can pull it. And I sort of realised that I needed to change, and the way I played, I needed to maybe look into it and things I said and that. And I found it quite hard because the big thing that a lot of people didn't know was a part of me getting stuck in this battle was getting rid of the fear of failure and I guess the insecurity I had in my own belief in myself, that I knew that if I picked the battle of the batter, that I was going to bowl harder, I was going to be more aggressive, and I was going to play better. And if I didn't do it, I was just not the same bowler. And so now all of a sudden I'm in this Black Caps environment where people didn't appreciate the way you played it. In a Tiger environment, I could flourish with this because they appreciate it. They like the way I go about my thing, and I'm performing for them, and they know me as a person. They know what I'm like away from the game and the other side of the boundary rope. And with the Black Caps environment, this took a lot longer for them to actually get to know you and understand you and know the person who you are. And so I found myself in that change room for the first 2 years very alone, and just by myself. And when you didn't play, and you start doubting yourself, you start doubting your ability, you start doubting your person you are, relationship going pear-shaped with other things, and there's other things that as a person you feel like now you're challenging everything of who you are and what you have done, that you need to change. All of a sudden you're in a bad space, and it just started spiraling downwards pretty badly pretty quickly. That, you know, banter and stuff by no wrongdoing in the change room, I knew it was banter, I knew it was jokes and stuff. It would just cut a little bit deeper because of the place where you are and the way I was sort of, you know, looking, I guess, at life at that point in time. And I just felt like a failure in a relationship, failure to my family, what was going on. I felt like a failure in not being able to achieve what I have wanted to in South Africa. Walked away there with people not really, you know, having built on relationships that I could have and wanted to, and not knowing me the way they probably could have and should have. And here I am in a Black Caps environment where I feel the same. All of a sudden I just felt like in this massive fog of, geez, people don't understand me. They don't know the whole me. And I just felt I'm just better off just going. Like, this is just better off just ending it here because they just don't know me and that's just don't understand me. And it got to the point where you just want to talk to people about it because it's just too hard to get it through and explain it, and you feel like weak doing it. And back in the day then, I mean 12 years ago, it sort of looked at like as a male, and especially the way I played, you can't show sort of that weakness in a way. And I sort of felt like this is going to give away my strongest weapon, which is this way I play which is a bit of a front that I put on to get rid of my own insecurities and my own fear of failure, my own self-doubt. It's going to throw away this weapon that I've got. How effective am I going to be, as a player? And so I just went through a bad space where I didn't sleep, and after about 4 or 5 days, we just have no sleep in that. You just don't think straight. You're just not in a good space. Running the drinks in a test match in Sri Lanka, I remember just exhausted, the heat, the humidity getting to you, and I just went back to my room one day, cracking, going, I just don't want to be here anymore. I just can't do this. I've had enough. I'm trying really hard for people to sort of just get to know you, to understand you, but they obviously don't. And that's where I realised that, geez, if I'm not going to talk to someone, I don't know what I'm going to do. And the worst thing about me that is one of my worst traits, but it's also that saved me, is I'm a people pleaser. And I love doing things for other people. I always have. And when I played cricket, I always wanted to do it for your captain and for your coach, for others around you. And I remember thinking to myself, what is this going to look like for my teammates? What is this going to look like in the newspaper? What is this going to look like for my family, for, the guys in Otago? What are they going to think about me, And I realised that I was sweating, and I jumped in the shower, and geez, it couldn't cool me down. I was just like all over the place, mind rushing away, hopped onto Facebook, and there's Lana. And I thought, okay, this is the person I've been talking to about all my relationship struggles, about all my stuff in my family, with all the stuff I'm going through cricket-wise that I'm struggling with. This is a person that I feel I can talk about anything with. And I just started opening up with her and sort of said, hey, I'm sort of in a bad space, this is where I'm at. And her support and that was just amazing. And I sort of felt like I can talk to her and share everything with her. And this friendship that was there just started becoming just an absolute solid rock for me to lean on. And I couldn't wait in the morning just to see her name on the phone, that I knew, okay, hey, this person cared and I could talk to her about everything. And it's in a safe environment, a safe place, because she's not on the selection committee. She's not in a friends group here that could go to someone else and say, hey, he's doing it tough at the moment. I don't think he should play, or we should get him home on a flight or something like that. Everything that could push me further down the edge, I knew there was something space, safe for me to be able to talk to. And it was a huge help for me, in that way. And it is amazing how things in life go full circle, because in a space where I doubted myself and my personality, my cricketing skills, the person I am, what I've done, the move I made, the shift I did, everything I've done as a person growing up, everything that I've doubted, it was 12 or whatever years, I don't know how long it was later, I can't even say to the date, how many years later, I ended up being in the same hotel room, in the same place, finding out about with Lana that we're going to have our first child, and finding out the gender and the gender reveal with the manager, with Mike Sandel, Rion Miller, the two managers, helping with Lana, trying to sort of do it as a bit of a surprise to the hotel staff, making a cupcake in a pink colour to find out how things went full circle. And I sat in that change room, in that hotel room, thinking to myself, geez, this is where it could all have ended. And where I was at rock bottom all of a sudden, in that same hotel room.
Exact same room.
Same side of the hotel, looking out to the ocean in Colombo, looking down to the car park in the foyer. And I was like, all of a sudden, it just hit me, where I just went, this whole spin in my head going, wow,
What you've just shared with us now, the reason that we like guests coming on and sharing that is because it helps people, right? And then when you're writing about it in the book, there must be so many people in your life that had no idea. Lana knew, like a very probably close circle, but for a lot of people, did you have to have conversations with them before the book came out about that this has been going on and this is part of who you were or are?
Yeah, it was hard because it was only till I think about 2019, roughly around then, after that One Day World Cup, Trent opened up a little bit about things he went through after struggling with that. What happened in the 2019 One Day World Cup, and he went through things that he struggled with and opened up through a few bits and pieces, and you start thinking that, geez, okay, he's opened up that, okay, that's a safe space. I can open up about something, and sort of I started opening up to him and Tim and Kane and said to them what I experienced then and went through, because I never told anyone and no one knew. Not my family, not any of my closest friends, no one apart from Lana knew what I went through. No one, my brothers knew something was going on a little bit, and I spoke to them briefly about things and stuff like that, but none of my family knew the extent of it, that what I've gone through, I guess, in a way. And when we had a bit of a belonging session in New Zealand cricket down at Lincoln, where everybody who played for the Black Caps got together, in Christchurch, in a hotel room at the Ridges Hotel, and we all got together in this big room, and we had this session where we went around the circle and everyone started talking, and people explained, a little bit about themselves, and started realising that there's so many guys that you spent 10, 11 years with, and you don't know anything about them.
And everyone's going through their shit.
And everyone's going through their shit, and I realised for that moment and period in my time, I was realising that I'm sitting in a room and I've played so much cricket against these guys in this room and so much cricket with them, and spend so much time away from my family with these guys on the road, and my family away from my family, and none of them know about me, what I've gone through. And if they don't know what I've gone through, how do I know what they've gone through? And I don't know half of what them, my families, their life, their background, where they came from. So everybody started talking and going, this is their parents' names, this is where they grew up, this is what they went to school, this is what they've done outside of cricket. One guy opened up about a family member they've lost and stuff like that, and I was like, I would not have known. And I started realising that, geez, we spend so much time with each other, but there's so much banter and chat and jokes and fun and laughter we have, but we don't actually open up about other parts. And one of the guys in the group, as we went around, opened about something, and I was just like, wow, this is huge. And it sort of made me feel like this is a pretty safe environment to be able to do it. And I didn't want to do it. Sort of the little talking stick sort of came closer and closer and closer around, and sort of got to me, and I was just like, my hands were sweating. My shirt was like, armpits are wet. And I was just sitting there said to myself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk about this. And I was just like, no, just pass it on. I'm happy where I'm at. Got through this. I'm stoked how I've dealt with this in my life, and I'm in a pretty good place now. I'm just going to pass this on and go with it. And then I thought then for a second, I sat down, I went, fuck it, I'm going to do this. And my mouth went dry. And I just said, hey, guys, boom. I started saying, we're talking about our environment in the team and the Black Caps and that, and where we've come from. And I said, there's a very few in this room, selected people in this room, that know what this environment was like. And when I walked into this environment, it was nowhere near the environment it is now. And it's come a long way to where people can come in and be themselves, can come in and really enjoy and flourish. And it's all about the team and the team first, but you are going to have an amazing time in this environment the way it is now at the moment. And I started talking about, and it's not through the wrongdoing of the environment that I came into in 2011, it was just the way things were and changing in cricket and how it was. And that was all a part of a life lesson for everyone else to go through, to know what they wanted this environment to look at in the future. And anybody who was a part of that, it's played a massive, would have had a massive impact in all of our lives, I guess, in a big sort of way. But I sort of started opening up and telling everybody what I went through in 2012 and where I was and what happened. And I sort of started, I can't remember exactly how it went on and what I said, and it was just all a big blur. And I finished talking and I looked up and I just went, oh, I'm so glad I freaking got that off. And it was sort of dead silence, and I sort of stood there and I was like, all of a sudden people just started standing up, walking towards you, gave you a hug, shook your hand. Kane, Tim and Trent was the only 3 guys who knew about this. And Kane just came to me and just sort of gave me this hug, and I just remember it just felt like the biggest weight fell off your shoulders, just like amazing. I just felt like so relieved, and I was like, geez, I'm glad I've done that. Mm. But then I felt quite nervous all of a sudden after a couple of minutes, and I was like, shit, what's everyone going to think about me? What's everyone going to think about this now? It's now out. Like, no one knew about this. A couple of guys, closest friends of me knew. No one else knew. Now it's out there. And I remember we had a bit of a break, and I went to the toilet and I was shaking in this toilet, and I was sitting there going, jeez, okay. And gone back to my seat and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty happy that I've done that. But then for 2 weeks after that, I sort of felt quite like this yuck feeling in my throat, thinking, geez, what is everyone going to think about this? Like, how is this going to be received? And I don't really, should I have told them? I sort of doubted that I did, whatever. And then after a while, after having some conversations about it, seeing that how many other people opened up about things after that and what it meant to other people, and then text messages that came through, what it meant, and seeing how many other people had their challenges and their things, I started realizing that, geez, that actually made a little bit of an impact. And, hey, I'm not the only one going through this. There's so many other people going through this.
There's so much power in sharing. And thank God you got in that shower and you were messaging Lana and you got past it.
Yeah, you reached out.
Because what you've gone on to do since then, like, you got 3 kids, you won a World Test Championship, you're one of the greatest bowlers of all time, all after that, and being able to share that here is going to help people. So thank you so much for giving us that detail. I want to build us into some of the more memorable moments. And there's so many, like, this is the hardest part about having a guest like you. It's like, what do you choose? There's the broken toes, there's the World Test Championship wins, there's just like so many moments of dramatics. But if you could just help us guide us through a few, and then I want to get to sort of retirement on the back end and what's next. So the first one we had on our list is the broken toes. Like 2 broken toes, and you're coming in over after over after over. And the book is so good. I can't recommend it enough. The detail of the injections and what that was like. And can you take us to that period?
Yeah. Again, it's a people pleaser sort of thing that gets me a little bit. That's probably the worst trait. But again, I hate sitting on the side watching and not being able to have an impact. One of my biggest fears or whatever was always getting an injury when I play, because you sit there, especially in a 4-day game or in a test match, which 5 days, there's a long period there where you're just sitting watching, and I hate watching cricket. And so I'm sitting there, it's just terrible when you feel like your hands are cut off and you can't contribute or can't do anything. So when this happened, I was gutted, because we only play a limited amount of test matches, and every time we played for New Zealand, it was that special, it was that good that I just wanted to get more and more at that time in my career. And then when this happened, and it was the first test of the series, there's another test to come, and I know I'm already ruled out for it, I was just gutted, because I sort of felt like I just want more of this. Now I can't play my role, I can't contribute, I can't help, and I know what it's like, because there was times where you lose a bowler when someone got injured or something like that, and the workload doubles for the other guys, and I know how tough it can be on the rest of the guys. And I was just like, the importance of that game, because I knew after that test match we'll move, if we win, to number 1 in the world, which was pretty special, because when I started out we were ranked 8th in the world. No one really sort of took us serious, and test cricket was tough. We were always either going to lose, or it was bloody hard fight just for a draw. And I remember, hey, we needed 4 test match wins to get a World Test Championship final. And I was like hell, I'm going to sit on the side and watch this. And what is it going to be like in a few years' time now, going, oh, yeah, we never made the World Test Championship final. And, not like it's because of me or what I can do or what I'm going to be able to bring, but I knew that if I'm going to give it my all and be a part of it, I'm going to look back and go, hey, at least I gave absolutely everything. And we didn't make it. It's not meant to be. But I'm definitely not going to sit on the side. So I looked at the doctor. I said to her, "Hey, is there something we can do?" And she goes, "What's your pain threshold like?" And I said, "I don't know. It's okay. It's up there.
As high as humanly possible.
Yeah, it's up there." And she goes, "Well, we can inject it. It will make your foot numb for a short period, but you're going to have to bite through the pain." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Let's try it." And the first injection was like straight into the bone. I was just like, okay. And I had to bite in this towel, screamed and squealed like a little girl. And the next one, same thing. I was like, okay, cool. And I go, oh, all right. And so after about 5 minutes, this kicked in. I started feeling this deep foot, and it felt horrible. It's just like this guy's foot, just literally don't feel anything putting impact down your foot. And it's almost worse because when you're running and everything, it just felt awkward and out of sync. So when you're running and landing bowling, it's just this dead foot you're landing on. And it would last for a little while, and then the pain will sort of come and go and come back again. And
how long is it lasting for roughly?
About hour and a half. And
one spell.
Yeah. And then it stops, and then the pain will be obviously more, and then the pain of the injection is also there because your foot sort of gets a little bit...
a question. Are your teammates going, "Wags, why don't you just..."
Yeah.
We got this.
All right, mate.
Yeah, a few of them like, "What are you doing? You don't need to do this. Don't do it. Stop it." And it got to a point where Kane would sort of look up to the change room when I saw things are getting tough for, the guys are trucking out hard and they're working hard, and then there's a wicket and it's great, and then there's a bit of a period building where, they're building a partnership, and Kane would sort of look up and sort of said, "How far away am I?" And I'd sort of go tap the doctor and go, "Let's inject it again." Let's go.
So how many times total?
I think it was like 24 times, 22, 24 times.
The danger,
throughout the 5 days.
The danger is that you can't feel anything, and you could be making things worse or injuring other stuff without knowing, right?
Yeah.
But you're kind of like, well,
I'm like, hey,
that's the risk I'm willing to take.
I'm willing to take that, but also I know I've got a bit of time off after this, so it's worth doing this. It's funny because, I've always been inspired by other sportsmen doing it. I always remember Andre Joubert, I think 95 World Cup, played with a broken hand. Richard McCullum played 2011 World Cup, broken foot. There's numerous occasions where you hear about the greats of sport having done this.
Like Shelford,
Yeah.
ripped open scrotum.
Yeah.
I put it down as that. Like that
there we
level
go.
of
Well,
24 injections in the toe.
You get inspired by go, hey, if Richard McCaw can do this, if Andre Joubert could have done this, and it was inspiring, I'll go, why can't I not try and do this? And I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to give it a go. And so, after a few injections, I was like, so the next day, after the first day of bowling, next day I woke up out of bed and walked, and Anna looked at me and said, how the hell are you going to... I was just going to walk. I was just like, it was so bloody sore. And I was just like, just got to find a way. And everybody think, you're stupid, what are you doing? And that. But I was just like, each and every one of those guys in that team are the guys who make me want to do it. If it wasn't for everything I've gone through in 2012, before that, as a kid, making the move to come to New Zealand, all that stuff you went through has played a massive part. But those 10 other individuals in the field, the support staff, everyone who's there, those guys are like my family away from my family. And I just love them to bits. And I love the environment that we've made.
That's the mindset that's made New Zealand fall in love with you too. You know, like that, you'll have 21 injections because you need to be there for your team because that's more important. You know, like the story of how you have come to be such a cult hero and legend in New Zealand is just based on all of the stuff you're talking about. Like, it's just really cool. It's just really cool to share it, right? Like, it's not just that example either. There's just
we don't have enough time for all of the times you played through injuries and because there's a broken hand. There's I think a hamstring's popped, and there's bulging discs. There's all sorts. Your career is littered with playing through pain, but part of that takes us to arguably our greatest ever cricketing moment in history, which is winning the World Test Championship. And I see the smile break out on your face. Do you have pinch yourself moments when you think back to that achievement?
The World Test Championship? Yeah, 100%. You look back and I go, that's one of the best things in my career personally that I think we've ever achieved. I mean, when I started, like I said, I think it took 12 tests before we had our first test win. Or when I experienced the first test win, to be able to sing the pledge. It took like 11, 12 brutal tests of either losing badly or getting so close with a draw that was just inches away of being able to sing that song and be able to win a test match for New Zealand. And you always wanted to do it. And I mean, like I said, when I started, we were so far behind everyone else. We're ranked 8th in the world. You know, you rock up against everyone and they just feel like they're going to beat you. And we wanted to play against them, wanted to, you know, throw a punch and show that, you know, you want to test your skill against them and be able to show that you belong, I guess, on that level. But ultimately, I wanted to win test matches. So every time we lost, for me, it was pretty bad. I just kept thinking, you know, geez, when is it going to come? How can we get better? How can we get better? And keep striving to get better. And then get to a point where, you know, we got our first test win and seeing what it meant to everyone and how, you know, everyone reacted after that, singing the pledge. Geez, we sung some piss afterwards as well. It was amazing.
Yeah, I was going to ask what the aftermath was like.
My first test win was Trent Bolt took, I think, 10 wickets at Wellington in the Basin against West Indies. And obviously, well documented, the limo up Mount Vic, the bowlers get into. And, man, we celebrated well. I remember getting a tap on the shoulder from Mike Sandel, the manager, at about 11:30 at night, sitting in Bangalore Polo Club in Wellington. I was just absolutely wasted, mate. And he just said, "Do you want to go home?" I said, "Yeah, I need to go."
Yeah, Mike, I do.
And Mike just got a van, got a taxi with me, went on home. And Lana was in the room. She was watching a movie, and I was like, "What are you still doing up?" She's like, "It's only 11:30. I was like, "Oh shit, okay." And I was laying on the bed, and I just started giggling. I could not stop giggling. And she goes, "You're right." And I just kept giggling. I was just like this happiest moment of my life. I was just like stoked. And then next moment, I just went, "Ooh." And I just rushed and went and hugged the bowl. And oh my gosh, spewed everywhere. And she just laughed and said, "I'm glad you had a good night." And so that moment there, I'll never forget, because it was just your first test win, first time singing the pledge, seeing everyone's face and that. And I just felt again, just wanted more. And then we went on and started winning a couple of series. And then you see the impact that had on New Zealand fans and people in New Zealand and, you know, following New Zealand cricket. Because at the start, no one really watched it. You know, we didn't really get the biggest crowds and stuff like that. And I remember when Brendon McCullum got that 300, you know, the Test against India, the series, I mean, that was a huge series as well, because it was the first time we beat India in gosh knows how long. And but I remember seeing the queues lining up in the basin and people coming in to support Baz to get the 300, and how it just looked, and you know how people just started falling in love with the game again. And then the 2015 One Day World Cup, which I had no part of, but as a fan watched on and supporting the boys and wanting them to do well, and seeing them go all the way to the final, and obviously, you know, gutted with how things unfolded then, but you couldn't be more proud to be part of New Zealand cricket and the team from what they've created and how people, you know, like Bass in the ad, D2 Dream or D2, you know, I guess Dream Big New Zealand sort of thing. And all of a sudden you see how people started getting back onto wanting to watch cricket, wanting to follow us, wanting to support us. And all of a sudden there's this expectation of us to start, you know, winning more and doing well. And we started winning more series, and you see, you know, what it meant to New Zealanders, to fans and to people, you know, coming up to you and, you know, seeing the joy it brought people. It just inspired you to go and work harder and train harder and do more to try and, you know, win games for New Zealand. And then to get to the point where, like I said, broken toes and all, go through that. And then I didn't play in Christchurch, and you just so badly wanted to be there. And luckily we got the job done. KJ bowled like a dream, took wickets, won the test, and I remember just sitting on the couch being so stoked, so happy, and next to my phone rang. And it was Trent, and he's put the phone down in the middle of the change room and we sang the pledge. And I remember being down the bottom of my lounge, yelling out the pledge. I think the neighbours must have think I'm screaming at Lana or something. What the hell's going on here? Yelling out, screaming this pledge on this phone with the team in Christchurch. And just making me feel part of it. I was just like, that's just shows you how bloody awesome these lads are. And then to keep believing that we could do it and go through, and we end up going to the World Test Championship final, and nervous as hell going into it because I didn't know if I was going to play or not and how it was going to look, what's going to unfold and selection and stuff. And myself and Trent had these interconnecting rooms. We asked the hotel to open the door between our rooms, and we were sitting there before the team got selected, myself and Trent going, geez, you think we're playing? And Trent's nervous, I'm nervous. I'm like, geez, I hope we're playing. And eventually got the nod and go sleep that night. And just this butterfly freaking tummy that's in you, knowing how big this is and wanting to be part of it and I guess, contribute and hopefully being able to achieve it. And then when we got ourselves in the longest ever test match I've ever been involved in, because we stayed at the ground, looking at the ground. The hotel, my room was facing the ground. 6 a.m. you're being woken up by the hover cover going off the field, lawnmowers up and down. It was just exhausted after that. But for 6 days, obviously went on with the rain-affected day. And then we got ourselves into the position to win this. And we went out and sat there, and you're sort of happy, but we're miles away from this, chasing it down still. But we sat in this change room, no one moved their spot. Everybody was superstitious all of a sudden. No one moved. And there was this group, because this change room was sort of spread out everywhere, there's this group of guys sitting, and they can watch through the window and see the live sort of play outside. And then there's this group, which I was a part of, watching the TV, and there's a slight delay. Yeah. And so you can hear them screaming and yelling, and then, oh shit, what's happening? And then we can sit, and there's this delay, scream and yell from our end. And I remember we were just living every run and every moment, counting down, and then it got to the point where we needed like 10 or 15 runs, and Trent just looking at going, you've got 5 runs in you, you've got 5 runs in you, you got 5 runs, I got 2 runs in me. We are doing this. And this is where I sort of looked around, I just wanted to pop a beer open already. I was just like, come on boys, we're going to do this. And then that huddle afterwards, then when Roscoe had that 4 and we chased it down, and we're jumping up and down there. I can't remember where I was, but I've got this bump in my nose, and there's just a hand coming over here, and we're just the tightest huddle jumping up and down. It was just the most satisfying, amazing feeling ever. And it was just so stoked, and just instantly felt like just want more. I just want more. You just want more of this. You just want more of this. You want to just keep moving this team forward and winning test matches for New Zealand. And it was just an amazing moment that I feel you can never take away, and you can never describe to anyone else out there, but it's the best feeling ever.
That captivated the country, like that rain delay on day one. I was working at the Herald at the time, like huge, like rolling weather updates on when play was going to start. And yeah, after the win, it was so magical. I feel like this could be a 4-hour epic. I am mindful you've got a game, you've got to get
That's all right, I've got time.
But I do want to sort of contrast with all the goodwill we've spoken about, and incredible career, the public loves you, you're adored. And in the end, and you write about it in the book, and it's a bit messy, and I wondered how you reflect on it now, how it was handled by New Zealand cricket, if you wish you had done things differently, or how it all played out.
Yeah, hey, at the time, I was furious. I was broken. I hated cricket. I hated everything around it. I was, as dark as you can get, in a downward spiral that was right up there with 2012, not thinking of taking my life, anything like that, nothing like that. It was just, I was in a very, very bad space. Just felt like everything that you invested in and been a part of so long to just brutally come to an end like that was bad at that stage, and you just didn't see things differently. You saw it in a very bad light. Then after talking to a lot of people, reflecting, sitting back, sort of going through everything you've gone through in life and how things work in life, I realised that that's just sport and that is life. Started realising that the more you started talking to people about it, that you're not the first and not the last who something like that is going to happen to. That is part of, unfortunately, how things work. And in time, I think when people want to do things over again, they probably would want to do it differently or might do it differently. And that's part of life. That is, not everyone is going to get it always right to a T in the way that you want things, I guess, in a way. And not everyone picks the fairy tale ending, I guess, too. It would be nice to know when the end is going to come and you can go and say you play your last game and, have your family there and be able to walk off in a way that you want to. But there's so many players out there that haven't had that opportunity, and you're one of them. After a lot of reflection, I knew that the way I felt, there's going to be other sportsmen who go through this, and other people to go through it, and a business sense and life in different ways. At that stage, I had a mate in the business industry doing it tough. I had another mate that lost his business, and I realised that, geez, there's other people going through it tough too. And I realised that, hey, again, there's nothing more special about you than anyone else. It's not, you don't deserve to have things. It's just the way things unfold.
For those that don't know what we're talking about, in your late 30s, you got called into a hotel room. Gary Stead and Tim Southey, who was like your mate and captain and a difficult position for him to be in, saying that basically your Test career is over and they don't see a path forward for you. And then you're dealing with that, what you're speaking about afterwards. That's got to be challenging on that relationship with you and Tim, because he's doing his job as a captain, but it's also a friend. Like, there's a really delicate, interesting balance there.
100%. And that's why I've got, have respect for Tim, because I know it won't be easy for him. It wouldn't have been easy for Gary in that room. I think for both of them, it would have been one of the hardest things they probably would have had to do. But the thing for me, the biggest respect I've got is Tim straight away picked the phone up as I was driving over the Kaimais on my way home, and he asked me if I was all right, and checking in on me, kept talking to me from an open, honest sort of perspective, and just supportive the whole time. And it wasn't long after that, he came over to the Mount for a training session and asked if we can catch up for a coffee. And I said, yeah, 100%. And throughout this whole conversation, he was just brutally honest from his point of view, and everything around it. And I had a lot of respect for that, because I felt like, it couldn't be easy. Like, as a captain, those are the tough things you got to go through and tough decisions you got to make. And regardless of whether it's right or wrong or what people in the public see or how they think of it, it is a decision that gets made in sport. And it wasn't easy, and he had to do it. But the respect I had is how he handled it afterwards, and is a mate for life. And like I said, I mean, we've been through so much more as our friendship grew. Like I said at the start, coming in an environment where Tim didn't like me, didn't know me, didn't understand me, didn't appreciate the way I played, to, building a trust in a friendship and relationship that's, was there for many years, that is just going to be a friendship for life. I know where he must have come from, and it wouldn't have been easy for him. And their decision, like I say, I would want it differently, but it's not for me. It's not my decision. I'm not the coach. I'm not the captain. I'm not the player. Regardless of what, you got to respect the decision. And the brutal thing about it is life. And like I said, I'm not going to be the first. I'm not going to be the last to go through it. And that's why I thought about putting it out there in a book to go and say exactly what happened and how it happened. But in the same thing, again, there's lessons and things that you can learn from that. All of us can learn from it. So yeah, I mean, like I said, again, it is the brutal nature of sport that you're going to get tapped on the shoulder sometimes. And now looking into it, I would have loved to have played, further down the line and played again. It just was the way it was and how it unfolded. And looking into the future, looking at now, the games to come, there's not a lot of test matches to come. So it probably is the right time for the younger guys to come in and step in and move forwards. At the time then, when it happened, think about it that way. Obviously, you saw, you hurt, you bloody, you definitely cut up, and I was. But after reflection.
Yeah, you were cut up. And that's what I want to pick on. I don't want to pick up on it for, to pick away the scab, but I feel like we've spoken about your feats on the field, and during the press conference where you did announce your retirement, you broke down and you showed emotion. And I feel like that endeared you even more to the New Zealand sporting public, because we got to see how much it meant to you. And I think you talk about the brutal nature of sport. You work in your dream job. Like, I've been let go from what I thought was a dream job, but I didn't have to do it in front of, you know what I mean? Like, it happens in private, whereas your career is being played out in front of this audience. Like, that is an extra layer of super complication. So was that just the culmination, the whirlwind of emotions that were happening in that sort of 72-hour, 4-day period, that maybe you were trying to hold it together and then
Yeah.
the dam just broke.
It did. I thought I was going to be able to hold it together the whole time, to be honest. I thought I was going to be, when I walked into it, I was like nervous and obviously sitting there going, yeah, no, I've got this. I wanted to do it that way, and I thought I was going to be able to nail it all and keep it together. And then until I started talking about the point where it was about the family, obviously, and Mike Sandel and how they've looked after us and this team and how, it has been one massive family. It just hit me that I knew that it's over now. It's done. You're not going to have that opportunity again. You're not going to be part of it anymore. It's done. It's just instantly stopped when you didn't think it was going to stop, but it's done now. And I think that's where it hit me. And then the floodgates opened, and it was just impossible to hold back. The more I tried, the harder it was, and that's why I just sort of wanted to wrap it up and get it done with. But like I say, it wasn't easy. It never was going to be. And when you invested that much of your life and gone through like everything we've spoken about from start to finish, everything you've gone through in your life, and then this has been such a big part of you, and everything that you've put into it, when it comes to an end, it literally it feels like trauma. It feels like someone's died. It definitely feels at that point in time like brutally end. But then after reflection and sitting back, and you go, and with kids, which is a beauty because they puts life into perspective very quickly. You just realise it's a sport. It's just another sport. It's just a game, and you were lucky to have played a part of it and were a piece of the puzzle, I guess, a small piece of a big puzzle that has unfolded throughout the years, and it was going to stop somewhere. And there's more to life after that you got to go on with, and that's what I say. After reflection, sitting down, looking into it, you start realising that it's time to move on.
There is more to life, and I'm sitting here finding myself unpacking your story you've spoken about, and I can understand the emotion in it, because you start your career with this team as a single man, going through an identity situation. You find love along the way. You start a family, which if you read the book isn't an easy journey to get to the start line for a family, and then that family increases. So it is a massive foundational piece of what will be a much bigger and broader life. But yeah, the enormity of that coming to a conclusion is really palpable in my mind now.
But then also the excitement of the next chapter. Right? So it's like that door is closed, and I know you're still playing and you've still, got the cricket part of your life, but 3 young kids, right? 3 kids under 5, and then that is the future. Like that's a hell of a job.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to get to, is that we've had a couple of cricketers on who have retired, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I've got this whole window of time that opens up now because it is so demanding. So you slip back into domestic life.
Coming back to the retirement thing, when it happened brutally like that, it is the first thing you think about is, shit, my income is stopping. Like what's next? So you first think, okay, I've had have a pretty good career, have a pretty good income. It's quite nice. You don't have too much stress. It's okay. Now you sort of think you've got things covered, but you sort of know it's coming closer, and you're sort of planning ahead for it. But you haven't had your ducks in a row, sort of thing. So you sort of, when it happens, you go, geez, what am I going to do now? I've got to think about, feeding the 3 little ones and putting a roof over my wife's head and keep going with it. So you sort of get a bit of a panic stage of, okay, cool, it happened quicker than what I thought it was going to happen. I haven't got my ducks in a row. What am I going to do now? And part of that sort of plays a little bit of your mind and emotions a little bit and not make you think clearly. But after time, when you sort of sit down and reflect and, again, trying to think about it, you got so much more to look forward to because it's the next phase. And I don't know what it's going to look like yet. I still haven't got my ducks in a row yet, but still playing cricket, obviously, domestically and enjoying it. But that's going to come to an end too somewhere soon. And then it's the next chapter of your life where you got to look into. And like you say, there's so much time that you spend away from family now where, fingers crossed, whatever you're going to do as the next job is going to give you that more time with family, and you're going to be able to provide for them in a different way, but you're going to be there for them and not miss out on those many times that you have, birthdays. And I mean, the other part of my family being overseas, missed out on weddings and birthdays and big moments and celebrations and stuff like that, where now you're probably going to have a bit more time free to be able to plan ahead, to be able to spend Christmas together and things like that. I think this year was my first Christmas, New Year's I've ever spent about 6 days at home straight and being around my family and actually being on the beach and swimming in the water and enjoy it and lie and have a bit of a suntan.
Have you got a preferred path? I think Lana said you got your real estate license. You've been doing some work on Sport Nation, like media. Do you have a path that you'd like to go down?
I don't know yet. We've done our real estate papers, so we're thinking about that route as a bit something to fall back on. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy the radio and commentary sort of side of things. I definitely thought of something I'd look, try and hopefully maybe dip my toes into and get stuck into. I'd like to think I want to stay involved in cricket some sort of way or some capacity. I feel, it might potentially keep you away from home again and put you on the road again. But it's just you've invested your whole life and your whole career. It's from the little boy that grew up playing in the backyard till now. It's been all you know. It's been all you've been doing. It's hard to turn your back on it and go completely away from it. I think the people who do it are people who just don't like the game or hate it or go away because they just had enough of it. They're happy to just leave it. But I don't think I'm there kind of yet. I feel a big part of me feel like I want to stay involved in the game. And if it is in commentary or radio or coaching, I don't know yet what that sort of looks like. But in some capacity, I want to try and stay involved, I guess. And like I say, real estate is something to fall, back on if something like that doesn't open up on, which is still a brutal job in itself as well, because it's sort of like cricket too. Again, if you don't sell houses, like not being picked in the team, and you've got to try and find your earnings some way. So there's always a challenge in life, and if I think the challenges was there in cricket and it's going to stop, it's definitely not going to stop. It's going to keep coming, and it's part of the moulding piece, I guess.
I'm excited to see what's next. The process of writing the book, like everything we've spoken about is in the book, but I wonder, because I know you were reluctant to do it initially and sort of got talked into it. Now, are you glad you did it? Like, was the process quite therapeutic? Like all these things we've spoken about, we might not have done otherwise. Yeah,
the process was very therapeutic. Definitely. There's part of me that's glad I did it. Part of me felt that sharing it and talking and getting off my chest has helped a lot. Made me more comfortable about things. Like I said, the hardest thing is now that a lot of people know about it. Even now when I went down to Otago, there's a lot of people who went, hey, we'd never have known that about you. We'd never have known that you went through that. And I said, you would not have known.
Yeah, it's a weird thing when people say that to you.
That was my safe place. That was my place where I could feel I could be me. And the worst is I've lost family members, loved ones and friends on suicide, and all of them you would not have known. And when they've done it, they were at their happiest and best time. And that's the most brutal thing about it, is that they would not have known. And that's why I sort of felt like, talking about this is the best thing maybe to get it out, to get people to feel like you're not alone. Because at the point of time with so many things in life that I write about in the book, which we've gone through, you really feel like you're the only one going through it. You really sit there and you think, geez, no one else is going through this. Don't know why you think like that or feel like that, but it is not the truth, because there's so many people who go through it. So many people who go through these challenges. Sitting in that room with 40-odd cricketers who played for New Zealand cricket and hearing everyone, and everyone had a story to tell. Everybody faces challenges. And cricket is a brutal sport. With the ups and downs, you have more downs than what you've had. You've got more bad days than good days on a cricket field. And when things are against you, it can be a bloody tough place. And spending that much time away from your family, being in a room, when you're in a hotel room, those walls feel like they're just closing in on you. The biggest thing I've learned, it was Mike Sandel saying a problem shared is a problem halved. And I didn't believe at the start. And I was like, I don't want to make my problem someone else's problem. But you don't. It is the best thing I've learned is to be able to share it, to be able to talk about it. I don't think we do it enough. We spoke about it in the change room the other day, is that, and the same thing myself and Trent mentioned it, was that we spend so much time with each other away from cricket together and then at the cricket field and there's so much we didn't know about each other, or at the time didn't know about each other, because we didn't talk about these sort of things. And sort of really encourage people to do talk about it, because when you do, you start realising how many other people go through the same thing. How many other people do have things that you can help them, support them with in a big way, and it definitely goes a long way.
Well, thank you for coming in and sharing your story with us. It is important and it will be impactful. And I know it's not always easy, but man, your story is such an incredible one. Like it's just remarkable where you've come from and what you've done, and yeah, the career. So I've loved it. So thank you so much for giving us so much of your time. Good luck with the game this afternoon.
Thanks, man.
In the future, Shay.
Yeah, I think from a personal perspective, I know, reading your book has been massively helpful in terms of some of the chunky topics that you talk about, mental health, you talk about parenthood journey, you talk about ADHD, you talk about a lot of things in there, but it's interspersed with the great sports story that we all love, the hero emerging from nowhere. So I think you've done a really good job in terms of making it a really palatable, appealing piece of work, and I think it'll transcend what you've done on the field, and you'll continue to take that through with you in the vocations that you choose to go. So thank you very much in terms of sharing that. I think you're a wonderful New Zealand sporting icon. I chuckled to myself when Stephen was reading something earlier about, thinking about the 21, 22-year-old that arrived here and then at the end of his career is in the same conversation as Sir Richard Hadlee. I think that is just a wild ride that you've been on, but testament to the hard work that goes on behind the scenes that we don't see. I'm going to steal words that were written about you from somebody else in summarizing, which I think encapsulates the whole thing. So the defining mental image of the past decade or so of Kiwi cricketing strength hasn't featured one of the marquee stars. It's not Brendon McCullum assaulting bowlers with a baseball slug through the covers, nor is it Trent Boult tearing through a top order, or even Kane Williamson raising his bat after yet another metronomic century. It's Neil Wagner doing literally anything on the field. Bowling, batting, chasing down the ball from fine leg, carrying the drinks, waving to the crowd. Those who deal with Wagner off the field find him to be a lovely bloke, but when the most determined New Zealander to ever pull on the whites went into action, something changed. He went about his business with an expression of utter focus that left no doubt of his commitment to the cause. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys. I hate hearing stuff like that. It's like I say, it's not about me. There was 10 other individuals, and they were the guys that just make me do that, and they all did the same. We just fed off each other, and I was just glad to be a part of that piece of the puzzle.
Cheers, Neil. Thanks for your time.
Guys. Thank you.